Welcome to China EVs More, where my co-host Lei Xing and I will go over the week's most important and interesting news coming out of the global EV, AV, and mobility sectors. What Lei and I discuss today is based on our opinions and should not be taken as investment advice. For those that are new to the show, welcome. And to our loyal listeners and viewers, welcome back. We ask that you smash those subscribe and like buttons so you don't miss anything from us in the future. And I are always on planes, it seems like, going to China and Europe. So help us get the word out about this podcast to others. My name is Tu Li. I am the managing director at Sino Auto Insights, a global management consultancy that helps organizations bring innovative and tech-focused products and services to the transportation and mobility sectors. I write a free weekly newsletter that you can find at sinoautoinsights.substack.com. So Lei, who is in China currently, can you please introduce yourself?
Good evening to a about to return to Munich too. This is your co-host Lei Xing, former chief editor of China Auto Review, and this is episode. It's an interesting number for China, 222. And yes, I'm in China. Part of the reason is I had to come back for a personal matter, which got taken care of. I'm very glad. And then thankfully happened to be here and I get to attend another NIO day. So I'm really looking forward to it because...
when are you leaving?
Leaving tomorrow.
Okay.
Taking the train down. And then I have another trip coming up for the other project that I'm doing. And I'll be returning to the U.S. right after the October 1st holiday. Good.
I unfortunately was obviously invited to NIO Day, and I have never been, so I am going to go. I'm going to try to commit to next year going to NIO Day.
Yeah, it's a spectacle, and it's special also because I'm looking at the NIO stock price right now, $7.56. And in the last 3 months, it's grown by about 120%. So unlike last year, NIO is going to this NIO day on a high, on a very high, especially given this UBS analyst, Paul Gong, who I know, and I was texting him, it's like, you give a buy rating to NIO? And he's like shrugged his shoulders. But anyhow, it's a big day, but also NIO, they're not doing the NIO day as before where they spend... Well, they're still spending a lot of money.
Yeah.
But used to be held in December, and this time they chose to held in September. Part of the reason is to accommodate the launch of third-gen ES8, which reportedly has gotten 100,000... This is unconfirmed, refundable orders.
You got to throw those numbers. You got to have a grain of salt with those numbers.
Exactly. And just like I don't pay too much attention to the weekly numbers, but yeah.
Well, you and I had always agreed that it needs to be at least 2-3 months of consistent movement one way or another for us to really consider pressing the panic button or cheer for increase in sales or whatever.
Yeah, and then I think recently the fact of the matter is NIO have just launched a good, competitive, well-priced products. We
talked about this a little bit last week, Lei, but it feels like how Xpeng kind of got their product portfolio correct. Seems like although NIO still has what I feel might be too many overlapping products, seems like they're getting it right as well.
Yeah. On the other thing I was alluding to or was about to talk about is really they've got this cadence correct, or maybe not correct is the right way word, but better rhythm based on the market demand, which I think I spoke to some of the German brand people in Munich, and I think that's something they will learn. It's just cadence of launch sometimes as important as the products themselves. So we're seeing that refresh a bit. Case in point, the Li Auto i6 launches and delivers. There's no pre-orders, it just does it. I think they're trying to copy Tesla, which has been doing that. Is that being frugal? Is that, I don't know what it is, but these are the tweaks that are happening to address demand and market conditions.
And we also know that things are being watched more closely than they have been over the last 3 years. The central government is very, very active and vocal. And so I think that maybe part of that i6 launch is we don't want to say a price and then lower the price and things like that, because it might create scrutiny when they don't need to have.
That's exactly what the 4-letter AUDI did with the E5 Sportback. Because people going into it thinking the launch pricing, me included, will be lower. But it stayed at the exact pre-sale pricing, which I think Audi did on purpose, is just also trying to show, we priced this vehicle for an Audi starting at 230, 240,000 RMB. We can't do any lower, neither can we go any higher.
Well, they're in fairness to Audi, the structural costs are much more significant for an Audi, the legacy automakers, generally speaking, than a NIO or an XPeng. I mean, they have to see complete failure in demand before any type of price cut. So I think coming in to that pricing, they probably thought this was as aggressive as we can be.
Yeah, and then really something that we wanted to talk about today is that Reuters article. I'm sure you've seen it.
Yeah.
About the China. I'm not sure I like the title, but it's something that's happening. I think it's great reporting from the Reuters team. But it's
so a
this
little background,
backdrop, right? That's kind of what we're seeing in recent days and weeks about toning down this involution, about exposing the issues, the negative side of this tremendous growth that we've witnessed over the last few years. Involuted growth.
And
the auto is one example, right?
What's different about this article and kind of the situation in the current atmosphere is dealers are openly talking about being forced to take on cars, and there's this open talk about zero mileage used cars. And so normally in a usual situation, this is an unusual situation, you wouldn't get those types of comments from the ecosystem, but you're seeing partners openly complain about the environment and how negative it is.
Yeah, I mean, me being here, I continue to get messages sent from the salespeople. This Tesla lady is sending me, there's discounts from Shenyang. Because now we're at the end of September, before the October holiday. There's been a kind of what you say, a mad dash, right? Same in the U.S. Like, well, you're personally in that situation.
I was just at the Audi dealer yesterday looking at a Q6 e-tron because there's end of the month deals.
Yeah, and then today this recall was a simple OTA from Xiaomi for the pretty much all the SU7 standard editions. Is also most likely stemming from that accident 6 months ago. They're just tweaking the highway NOA speed optimization, I think. That's part of OTA recall. And then this recent introduction of, I'm looking at the MIIT's introduction of the safety requirements for combined driving assistance systems of intelligent and connected vehicles, right? These policies and regulations are coming out scrutinizing, basically, I think, and new requirements on safety. And the other side of it is on less involution. I think we're kind of seeing that toward the end of the year. Is this going to stop the price war? I think it's going to continue in some way and form, but I think maybe the government, even myself included, has come to a conclusion that it's enough, maybe, right?
I don't know if we can take another year of this. I think 2026 is going to be a pivotal year for the China economy and the passenger vehicle market because, it doesn't help them abroad either because the protectionism now, I think we kind of mentioned this last week, Mexico is looking at increasing tariffs. They're the 12th largest passenger vehicle market in the world. Canada's number 8. So if Canada drops to 0 and Mexico increases, then maybe that's a wash. Canada is a mature market. It's not growing. Latin America is. And so if they're pushed out of the Latin American market or the Mexican market, that's a hit. And it doesn't help. And it's not going to help their overcapacity challenges. So I don't know how much farther or how much longer they can kick that can down the road.
And then I just saw a story about Chery perhaps exiting the Russian market due to some restrictions. I'm not sure if you've seen the news, but I just saw something. I had to look into it. For someone like a Chery, I think this is really related to this overcapacity issue. Chery exports half of their sales.
Actually, in August, they were at 53% exports.
Yeah, so
53
half
of
their
total
sales.
sales.
Are exported.
Yeah. More than half, which
so
is not great. This is on the heels of their IPO in Hong Kong.
Right. I think there will soon be IPO in Hong Kong, probably within a matter of days, not weeks. So all of these things are kind of happening. And, at the same time, WM Motor is restarting production. We have this Dream E.
I saw that.
This Dream E announcing that new...
Let me stop you there. WM Freeman Shen or WM some other management team? That's what I was sure about.
Some other management team.
Okay, that's what I figured.
A majority shareholder being a auto sales company from Shenzhen. These are the things that I think make you say, why, especially with this overcapacity that this Reuters article talked about. It's an issue, but...
You know why, Lei? Because they probably still have those factories in Wenzhou.
That's exactly it.
Because I visited that the factory in Wenzhou, the WM Motors in like 2018.
2018, when they
and it's like, oh goodness. But
and then Dream E, right, from this robot sweeper company that posted the picture of a Bugatti lookalike. What do you call that winged, weird-looking door Sportster? And they were in Berlin. Berlin announced something about building in Europe. I don't know what to say, really.
So you have all these, what's the right way to say this? Kind of conflicting messages. WM starting production. Dream E is going to do a Bugatti competitor that they've been working on for 12 years. With the backdrop of the central government saying, hey, cut out the price war, pay your suppliers. And then, the Geelys and BYDs saying, yes, we're going to pay them within a reasonable time, trying to be good corporate citizens. But they're also then offering non-price price cuts to incentivize consumers because we're getting towards year end. And I believe that BYD is going to do everything in their power to get over 5 million units. They talked about 4.6, but, 4.6 would be a disappointing number for BYD for sure.
Yeah, well, sooner or later, you can't have those kind of growth anymore, right? And you were pointing to the payment terms.
No, just really quickly, 1 of every 5 BYD vehicles is exported now.
Yeah, I think it's probably higher than that, maybe a quarter, if not 20%. But I was saying that the other thing that happened recently was the CAAM came out with a statement about the payment terms. And then I think like 17 to 20 automakers soon posted statements saying, okay, we're going to adhere to this. And these 17 to 20 represent like 99% of sales in China, basically. But in reality, who knows? It's probably more PR. But these are kind of the things that are either going to be, well, it seems positive, but on the books, it could be negative. If you play with the accounts receivables and payables. It's another thing that's kind of a headwind, other from the sales pressure, right, to compete.
So for those folks wondering, Reuters posted an article earlier this week. The team in Shanghai, and then with some help with the U.S. team, I think. So I want to point out a couple articles. That Reuters article is terrific. The New York Times.
Yep.
Keith Bradshaw article is really good.
Mm-hmm.
The Reuters team has been really, really hitting on all cylinders. I really like Nick Carey's article a few months ago about the Chery vehicle and how they went Euro spec or China spec to Euro spec in like 6 weeks or 7 weeks. So if I'm not here to endorse anybody, but there are some pretty accurate articles out there that we will highlight that Lei, I don't know if there are two other people in this world that kind of intimately understand what's going on in China the way we do.
Yeah.
I think that, so I want to shed light on those articles that seem very accurate.
Yeah, this Reuters article's title is, I'm looking at it right now, China is sending its world-beating auto industry into a tailspin. It's very provocative. It's
a long read too. It's a long article.
It's quite long, yeah, but it puts things into perspective,
And our friend Simon Wright also wrote a piece earlier this week about his time in Munich. So, for The Economist. So that's a pretty good one.
Yeah. So, I think I just want to say, like, I've been able to come back quite a few times now. I think I've lost that, even myself, lost that kind of the initial Christmas Day gift feeling, and also think that this is perhaps the foreign automakers' perspective as well, that things needs to slow down a bit. Just kind of the, at the same time,
let me talk.
It's jobs, it's economy. I've been buying, because
that's the.
I've been using JD for YMI because they have the discounts.
The discounts.
I said bye-bye to Meituan, right?
So I should remind folks that I stayed with a friend. This was probably a year ago now, or, I was staying with a friend and his toilet broke at 10 o'clock at night. And we ordered a plunger and it came at like 12:30 in the morning. So that's the kind of service and competition that you're dealing with in China. And now blow that out to the automotive industry. Could you imagine in the United States, Lei, the type of aggressiveness and customer service that you would get in China at a dealership in the United States? It's just the experience in general for car buying in the United States is awful, and I can't stand it. I can't stand it.
And then
it's something I couldn't tolerate if we had to buy cars every few months or once a year. I just would pull my hair.
And then this past week, I think the foreign brands, Buick with the Electra L7 and then Audi with the E5 Sportback. Well, I felt like there's some momentum gaining maybe from the foreign brands. But what they're going to experience next year is not so much the China speed of time to market. I think they figured out that right. The problem is whether they can get the China speed right in terms of making decisions to pivot once those products are launched, to iterate, to update the products. Because that's what the Chinese EV brands are doing. It's something that I thought of.
But I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I don't know if I don't know if that's sustainable for the Chinese either.
Right. How long does that continue?
There's the too fast, too slow, and then just right. I don't think we're at the just right yet. Because the price war is dictating a lot of changes, a lot of updates. But if, and this is a big if, 70-80% of the car makers are taken out of the system, then we can get to this just right point. But when state-owned enterprises are discounting cars just to keep factories running and have no path towards profitability, it doesn't really help a NIO or an XPeng or a BYD. And that's the unfortunate thing, because it pushes out their profitability even farther.
And and really, it's for these people, they have to ask themselves the question, where should the industry go? Where should, what is a healthy growing industry? What do they want? It's, just putting things in perspective. I know we're a little bit down today, but putting some cold water, but that's what it is.
Yeah. At least so let me talk my situation.
Yeah, talk
for
about your maybe events in the last few days.
So I leave on Sunday to go to Munich, and then Tuesday night my wife is going to come with me, and we are planning to go to Oktoberfest Tuesday night. And then on Wednesday, I'll go to a city about an hour outside of Munich called Tegernsee, and there's a small transportation leaders summit hosted by a couple of venture capital firms that I'll go to. I'll report back, but that's from Wednesday to Friday or Saturday or something like that, or Thursday to Saturday or something. And so looking forward to that. The weather's going to be changing. There'll be some hiking, so it'll be interesting.
I will warn you, I've been to the one in Stuttgart 9 years ago, and it's prepare yourself for some madness.
Okay. I will do that. So.
Talk about the Automotive News Congress, which you were part of last week, right? Or this this past week, right? This week.
It was Thursday. It was Thursday. I didn't talk about it on Friday? Last Friday?
No.
Did we have a show last Friday?
No, because we recorded the episode on the 9th.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We didn't have anything.
That's right.
Right, it was last week. I apologize. It was last week, right after Munich.
But we didn't record a live show, correct?
No. Right after Munich, we did not.
Okay. So Thursday was the Automotive News Congress in Detroit at the GM headquarters. Lots of panel discussions about speed in changing. You and they talk around things, and we had a panel discussion at around 3, which was right before Mary had a fireside chat with Casey Crane, whose family owns the Automotive News. One of the things that was really important was Yusen Chung, who is the chairman of Hyundai. He came to accept an award, and the first question that Casey Crane asked him was, hey, what are your thoughts on what's happening in Georgia? And I'm sure there was coordination between the Korean government and Yusen Chung. And he was super humble guy, right? And he basically said, look, I am only concerned about the people involved, the Korean people involved. And the U.S. government and the Korean government are working to resolve these issues. So, and the only thing I will say that he was very, let's say, diplomatic about everything he said, because he didn't really say anything else about it except that the visa process in the United States is pretty complicated. That's one of the things he did say, and it is. But then he moved on. They talked about Hyundai. He emphasized it's all about focusing on the customer, building a product that's customer focused. So I think that was awesome. What was lost on most people at the Congress was this award. It was like a lifetime achievement award. And, I didn't think too much of it, but then I see after the fireside chat is over, his whole family came. Like, they went on stage, took pictures. So this was a huge, huge honor for him. And I applaud Hyundai I don't know if they were thinking about taking him off stage or not having him do the fireside chat because of everything that's going on, but I applaud Hyundai. Our good friend Trevor Hale, who's a comms guy for Hyundai, VP. Head, yeah, so I saw him there. But what's important is that previous to Yusen coming on stage, Jose Munoz had a small news conference that talked about it. So that kind of
cleared up
deflated some of the anxiety so that Yusen could come up on stage. And then for our panel, I'm probably the only one up on stage. I'm sure I'm the only one up on stage that was in China twice this year and has been to China every year for the last 10 years. I don't think anyone else on that stage was in China, for 6-7 years. Okay. So I'm I don't know about anyone else, but I'm speaking from experience. I'm not reading other people's shit. And then, I just talked about the situation and what we need to do and kind of set the table. And everybody, I won't say everybody, there was a ton of people after the panel was like, hey man, great panel discussion. You're probably the most interesting one today, that kind of thing. So it resonated quite a bit. But that also tells me that people are living in a vacuum a little bit. I think leadership at certain companies probably aren't giving full disclosure to their employees about the competitiveness and the dangers and the risks that are going on right now, the significance and the real competition that's happening. I think people still believe that these Chinese companies have an unfair advantage, that their products aren't really that good. It's changing, Lei, but it seems like leadership is protecting them they're not being treated like adults, basically.
I think other from the unprofitable business that these Chinese EV brands continue to operate. I think that's one of the issues that was probably pointed out in the Reuters article. Other than that, right? It's all about the product. It's all about how the companies are. These are important things for their competitiveness. Yes, there's subsidies. Yes, there's overcapacity, but I think these other things are not talked about enough. And you go back to that balance, which needs to be arrived at a certain point, which is not where it is now.
And when a Chinese vehicle lands in the United States or a bunch of Chinese brands land in the United States, if the product is better and it's competitively priced, I don't think what kind of decision is there for the American consumer? I'm not going to spend $10,000 more to be patriotic.
Mic drop. No, I was thinking, when do we ever see let's say a Detroit auto show with that many Chinese brands colliding with the American brands? When do we ever see that? If we do see that, my goodness, right?
So I got to tell you, I think one of the things I said on stage, I think I said it. So one of the things I said was, I wouldn't be surprised if in the next 24, 36 months, a bunch of you have WeChat on your phones. That's what I said.
Yeah.
Because things are changing in the United States. And, for sure, the Biden administration has had a different philosophy than the Trump administration. And so I don't know where that lands with regards to Chinese. But we're going to find out very soon because Xi Jinping and Trump are meeting today about TikTok and a few other things.
They just spoke on the phone.
So
about this TikTok or something. I don't know. We'll probably see some news. And
I think that TikTok is the canary in the coal mine. If they come up with some solution for TikTok, that could be the path to Chinese EVs entering the U.S. market.
Wasn't Oracle now being rumored as the kind of the buyer or shareholder or whatever?
Yeah, I think that's been rumored for quite a while.
Yeah.
So the rich get richer, basically. And but the Automotive News Congress was really good.
I attended that many, many, many years ago when I just started helping my dad. I think I remember maybe it was in the early 2000s. I attended one.
Okay.
Like way back when I was still young. Still young, but when Dieter Zetsche was the Chrysler CEO, I remember that. That was the early 2000s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
so cool. Yeah,
I think in the US it's good. I think there's some of these conferences sometimes don't have the China component, but obviously now
I don't think conferences can ignore it anymore. I don't think
exactly.
Because you lose legitimacy. One of the big things about these conferences, Lei, is that they're also really trying to redefine themselves. Because the traditional panel discussion with executive managers from company X, Y, and Z, now they don't really communicate anything because their comms teams really don't allow. Jim Farley still says a lot of stuff that I think his comms team doesn't want him to, but I don't see that many other CEOs or, vice presidents really being that real. That it seems very polished and saying a lot, but not communicating anything. And so these conferences provide a lot less value than they did 20 years ago, when you could ask tough questions and not get deflected. And so there's a huge disruption in the traditional conference format as well now.
And also recent.
Go ahead.
No, as I haven't paid too much attention to last few days. I know there's been some political upheaval because of that incident. It's getting harder and harder to understand the U.S. sometimes. Why people are...
Well, the traditional media, generally speaking, is now so fragmented. And honestly, that's why I think we have such a loyal following as well, Lei. I think we cut through the BS. We show people that we're actually experiencing, as opposed to reading other people's experiences and interpreting what our thoughts on based on their experiences. And it's hard to build trust nowadays, right? Because social media, people have agendas, people get paid, but aren't telling people they're getting paid. And I don't want to get too deep into this.
Yeah, no, we should talk about China EVs.
Yeah. So you, how long is the train ride from Beijing to Hangzhou?
4.5 hours.
Okay, so it's the maglev, right?
No, just the high speed.
Okay.
At the same time to Shanghai, a little bit less.
I've never been to Hangzhou.
Not ever?
Never been to Hangzhou. Never been to Hangzhou.
Oh, wow, okay.
I'm going to change that. I need to go visit the Geely guys, so I'm going to change that.
Year,
so Ash, Kevin, let's go.
Make sure to send the episode to him.
Right? So, and then, man, so my adventures in car buying will end September 30th. I will make an announcement in or around that time.
It's getting
we might not be able to do a show next week, but so because my brother, he sends me these articles, special deals. So I go and it's like, yeah, we don't have inventory. And then I talked to Kevin, I talked to the Auto Pacific guys. Hey, have you driven this car? Have you driven that car? And they're all telling me, what's up?
Guess who I met at the Renault open space, the store? Ed Kim.
Oh, nice.
I'll send you a picture. He was wearing a Hongqi hat. And then he was buying Renault lifestyle products.
Okay.
I was like, you have a great hat.
Well, we'll see him in LA. But I have one of those Hongqi hats. But
yeah,
I got mine in Paris, I think.
Yeah.
Anyways, I have my Renault 5 right there. And
I got one too.
U7 right there.
I make sure I got one too because I really like that.
So anyways, let me check for questions because I think we're good. So SPX, welcome back from the battleground where Western audience votes with their wallets on the best China and Germany has to offer. That's from SPX. And then let me see. Lei over to Hangzhou. That's from Riz. Sean K, when do you think NIO will come out with an information about new battery swappable EV from Battery Swap Alliance? It has been about 2 years, so they should be able to come up with a model from Chery.
So if I remember correctly, William, he actually did respond to this type of question at the Envo L90 launch. It's murky from his standpoint. It's not very clear. He was basically saying it's in the works. It'll take some time. So when does that time come? I don't know. It'll be something announced at this NIO Day, but I would guess that something should materialize next year at the latest, if not this year. That's my there's still that kind of the development and joint process, making sure that it fits. But obviously, we've already seen some rumors about, was it a Chery or the GAC vehicle? But nothing has been substantiated or confirmed.
I'm anticipating how the Chery IPO is going to go, so we'll see. Chery has been I think one of the pleasant surprises for the Chinese brands, because they've been so strong in the foreign markets, the UK, Australia, to a lesser extent.
They've
Omada
been strong
is a
for the
strong
last
brand.
20 years. So this is not recent.
Well, I mean, it's like exports.
Yeah.
And then SPX writes, how are the Germans doing playing catch up in the EV functionalities and specs, drivetrain, battery, ADAS, etc.?
Well, I'll tell you what. Betting on momenta is one of the biggest things, right? Buick has the momenta. Audi has the momenta. Toyota has the momenta. The upcoming Mercedes, BMW, all will have momenta. Just on the ADAS part.
Which is surprising, to be honest with you, because there are other, QCraft, Deep Route, Deep Route's working with Great Wall, but you'd think they would try to also be aggressive with other OEMs, but
No, I think this Munich, I tried out a host of these solutions providers, and I mean, they're pretty good. So I think you're going to see a lot of fighting for deals, whether it's the ZYT, whether it's the Horizon Robotics joint venture, Bosch WeRide. They show some incredible things in Munich.
Yeah.
Which will go on to both the Chinese and the foreign branded EVs that are launching next year.
What the next really competitive space is going to be silicon. The chips, NVIDIA there's a lot of articles recently about NVIDIA, and the competition is dialed up
right?
quite significantly. So I keep a close eye on that, because there's geopolitics, there's all kinds of stuff involved with some of that stuff. And the US government is now taking a 50%, let's say they get, NVIDIA is paying the US government 15% of all their sales or something like that. NVIDIA's, in order to get the H20,
right.
But the Chinese government doesn't.
Sales, right?
Right, but the Chinese government doesn't want the Chinese companies to buy NVIDIA. So something's got to give. And that's probably one of the things that Trump and Xi Jinping are going to be talking about. Anyways, no other questions, Lei. So why don't we leave it there? Everyone.
Relatively quick. Not working very well this time, because the military parade is history.
Yes, there's no delay. We're actually talking like normal people. So everyone, have a good morning. Afternoon, morning, good afternoon, good evening. We will talk with you all, if not next week, in 2 weeks.
That brings us to the end of this week's show. Lei and I thank you for tuning in. My name is Tu Lee, and you can find me on Twitter at Sino Auto Insight. That's SinoAutoInsight. You can find Lei on Twitter at Lei Xing 77. That's LEIXING 77. If you wouldn't mind rating and or reviewing us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you grab your podcast from, we'd appreciate that as well. Even better, if you enjoy this show, please tell your friends about it. Please join us again next week as we track down all the latest news on China EVs and more.